Look and live. God makes a way. So Moses intercedes, and God tells him to make a serpent and put it on a pole, and whoever looks at it will live. Now, this is kind of crazy. I mean, if you just got bit by a snake, the last thing you would be thinking about is making a bronze serpent, right? Why make a picture of the snake? I mean, would you put that in your house? You wouldn't put that in your house. I mean, you wouldn't put that, like in the middle of the city. You wouldn't put that in the middle of the camp. But God's ways are not our ways. You would be saying to the person, hey, follow the science, get right to the hospital. Follow the science, get the antivenom. Follow the science, get to a doctor. You would respond in some other way, but God's ways are not our way. This was a spiritual consequence of their sin, had spiritual solutions that needed to be employed. And so he builds the serpent, and those who look would live. Now, why would that work? Because it was an act of faith. It makes no sense to look at a bronze serpent in order to live. It was an act of faith. And God honors our faith. Friends, when you and I humble ourselves before God and we act in faith, God honors that. And maybe if you haven't trusted Christ, maybe you're here, maybe you're watching online, I want you to know this, that this serpent ends up becoming a picture of something in the future. In John 3, there's this guy who comes to Jesus. He's lived a good life. He's lived a moral life. He's lived a religious life. But he comes to Jesus and he wants to know if he's been good enough. Am I good enough to make it into heaven? What else do I need to do? I want to make sure I make it. And Jesus says to him, you must be born again. And Nicodemus looks at him and says, I have no clue what you're talking about. That's not language I'm familiar with. And so Jesus tells him, as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, that's Numbers 21, even so the Son of Man, that's Jesus, must be lifted up, so that whoever believes in him will have everlasting life. See, the whole point of putting that serpent up was to listen to what God said, recognize God's provision, believe what God said, and believe that God has made a way to rescue us. Those experienced it in the past in Numbers 21, and you and I experience the day when we trust Jesus Christ as our Savior. Friends, the reality is this, is you and I are going to be facing struggles of impatience throughout the journey of life. My question is this: are you right now suffering the consequences of being impatient? If so, today's a good day to confess that. If you're right now struggling with impatience and you're tempted to do evil, Satan is just sitting there, do it. He's just egging us on. Don't do it. Follow God, trust God, rest in his sovereignty, believe in him, act in faith, trust him. And if you're here and you haven't trusted Christ, look to the one that was lifted up, Jesus Christ, and believe in him.